But first, that boatload of what authorities think are Chinese nationals who made their way undetected and onto land in remote Western Australia. Does this mean that, given the whole foreign criminal detainee mess, that people smugglers are back in business? For more, I'm joined now by Shadow Minister for Immigration and Citizenship, Dan Tehan. Dan, thank you for your time. I mean, let's start with the big question. Let's step back and I'll ask you, under this Prime Minister, is Operation Sovereign Borders now broken?
Well, it seems that way, Peter, because we've now had three attempts to get people onto the mainland here in Australia, and all three have been successful. And as we spoke about with the second boat that arrived, basically Operation Sovereign Borders didn't have a clue about how that boat got to mainland Western Australia and then was able to remove itself without detection. Now, we've now seen a third boat be able to land, drop people off and go without detection. So it does seem that Operation Sovereign Borders is broken, because the fact that they can get in and our surveillance cannot pick them up and they can get out of here shows a level of sophistication by the people smugglers that we are not able to combat at the moment.
You're right to talk about the undetected entry and then exit. I think that's the big departure from what's happened in the past, because we know under Labor there have been boats intercepted. We've had a number of Sri Lankan fishing vessels and other people that have been sent back to their country of origin, but 3 undetected boats. I tell you, Dan, it makes me question yet again the Prime Minister's decision to throw out of the National Security Committee the intelligence agencies, ASIS and ASIO. I mean, they were in the room under Howard, under Rabbit. Perhaps if they were in the room, he might have a bit of intelligence about these boats.
A very good point, Peter, and one that hasn't been picked up yet, but you are absolutely spot on. Intelligence is key, and he's removed them from around the National Security Cabinet table. Not only that, it's the arrogance as well, where he sits there and says, there's nothing to see here. We've done nothing to adjust Operation Sovereign Borders, when he's taken temporary protection visas away. And also he's reduced the amount of surveillance which Operation Sovereign Borders can conduct, both through on the air, on the sea and through the air. So major changes, and yet he arrogantly says that there's nothing to see here. This is deeply concerning, and the Prime Minister does need to act. He needs to get those intelligence chiefs back on the National Security Committee of Cabinet. He needs to get more funding into the budget so more surveillance can take place, and he needs to restore temporary protection visas.
Yeah, Tony Abbott used to call it a three-legged stool. You take away any one of those 3 elements, and they've already taken away TPVs, and we know the Prime Minister is philosophically against turnbacks. You know, the stool doesn't stand up, or doesn't hold the weight of anybody, and that's clearly what's happening here. But just explain for my viewers a little bit more about the reduction in surveillance, the budget changes, because I think that's not been picked up well enough in the media either.
Yeah. So what we've seen is a cut in the funding to Operation Sovereign Borders, which means that there has been a cut in the amount of surveillance which is taking place by air and at sea. So that means that the people smugglers have a greater percentage chance of being able to land on our mainland, and that is exactly what's occurring. And not only that, I think that they've come across a level of sophistication which enables them to be able to go undetected. Now, what technology they're using, I don't know, but it would seem they're using technology that we haven't seen before. And that's where we need our intelligence agencies working with their counterparts in the region to find out what they're doing, how they're doing it, so we can combat it. But at the moment, it seems that Operation Sovereign Borders is stretched, doesn't have the finances to be able to do all this surveillance, plus do that work that's needed in the region to find out what is happening. And that's why we're getting these boats arriving. And while you've got a weak Prime Minister who arrogantly is dismissing this as a problem, and as your viewers would know, two of the most incompetent ministers I think we've ever seen in one portfolio together, and that's the Home Affairs Minister and the Immigration Minister. Of course the people smugglers are going to test our resolve, and it's exactly what they're doing.
Well, just on that Immigration Minister, Andrew Giles, I mean, he gave his, I want to say it's extraordinary, but it was actually laughable, interview to the left-leaning Saturday paper on the weekend. He described himself as a persuader. He said, and I quote, "I'm focused on demonstrating to the community a sense of control over our systems. I think I'm a persuader," he says. "I'd like to think of myself as deliberate in how I do my work." Now, Dan, if he can't put an ankle bracelet on a rapist and keep it on the rapist's ankle, how on earth is he going to stop the boats again?
Well, that was one of the most extraordinary interviews I've seen, and to call himself a persuader and that he's putting control around our immigration system and our borders, it just makes you laugh and laugh out loud. And as you say, he's botched everything to do when it comes to detainees. We know now, or they won't answer the question, but we think that there are murderers and rapists who are now out in the community without ankle bracelets, because they specifically won't answer the question whether all of them do have ankle bracelets or not. We've got more High Court cases coming. It's just a farce upon a farce, and yet here he is saying he's the great persuader. Well, the only thing he's persuaded is the people smugglers to start up again, and that is of deep concern to our nation.
It is a terrible indictment on where we are now. Dan, thank you for your time. Dan Tehan, the Immigration Shadow Minister.